We have two new coaches in the ACC. We're going to talk about Virginia and Duke, as well as some hoops action. We've got Georgia Tech to talk about from the women's side. We've got NC State to talk about on the men's side. We have Kenton Gibbs here from Locked On Wolfpack joining the show. It should be a good one, folks. Let's get into it.
Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs for the Monday episode. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen each and every day. You can follow us on Twitter at Locked On ACC, or you can subscribe on YouTube. There it is, 3 times fast. You can get it out. Kenton, I hope you had a good weekend.
Yeah, I had a great weekend. Besides seeing my team fall just short, kind of fall apart there at the end of regulation and get hosed by the refs a little bit, everything has been great.
No doubt. We've got some big things to go over on today's show. Let's start with Virginia deciding to take Tony Elliott after a fly to, fly back situation in terms of private planes. He is officially the head coach for the Virginia Cavaliers. He will be starting his tenure there after spending nearly 10 plus years at Clemson. Feeling good about the hire. Let's talk about that, as well as what it might mean, implications for Clemson moving forward. So how do you feel about Tony Elliott being the new head coach for the Virginia Cavaliers?
Honestly, and I'll get into the other head coach later, neither of these guys move the needle for me in a way that I'm like, oh, the ACC will forever be changed by this. And don't get me wrong, I have been wrong before in life. I will be wrong again in life. I could be wrong right now. But neither one of these coaches really move the needle one way or the other for me.
So let's talk about Tony Elliott and why you feel like he doesn't move the needle after spending so much time in Clemson. He's obviously built a national championship type pedigree. He's been an offensive coordinator for national champions, for meaning like the actual players, not for actual national championships, for people who are going to try and correct me on the show. I just want to know why you feel like he's not capable of now leading a squad on his own.
I don't know how to say this without being rude, but if anybody remembers when the Golden State Warriors were a lot better, like right now they're still one of the best teams in the NBA, but when they were a lot better than everybody, when they had KD over there, they would have times where they would let the players coach the games, and that's the sentiment that I get here. His beginning of being an offensive coordinator, he had a year 3 Deshaun Watson. I mean, listen, even with everything that we now know about Deshaun Watson, if you were to redo the draft in which he was taken, how many GMs would be like, he shouldn't be a top 5 pick?
Not many.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I rest my case there. But even moving forward from that, last year with a Clemson offense that, yes, they saw some injuries, but they were still as talented just about as pretty much everybody else in the conference. What was done there? Way too many quarterback powers that developed way too slowly. I'm not seeing it. I'm honestly, I hope that he is successful. I hope, because it's good for the conference when more teams are good. I hope that he can lead Virginia to some wonderful things and all that. And I understand Bronco Mendenhall's reasoning for stepping down and wanting to be closer to his family and all that good stuff. I get that. But it's also like, I'm not as high on Tony Elliott as certain people. And I'm not a super Tony Elliott critic to where I'm like, this is a horrible move by UVA. They're going to regret this for the next 20 years. It'll set them back until 2040. It's like, we'll see, I guess. But I don't really have too strong of feelings one way or the other.
So I guess my confusion is he not a great X's and O guy? He cannot develop players. He's not a good recruiter. What are the type of things that make you not feel confident about him being a head coach?
I think that the recruiting part is there. I think that he can recruit just fine. I'm not sure about the X's and O's. I'm not sold on the X's and O's. And we see coaches all the time who are really good at one and not so good at the other. And it oftentimes manifests itself in, mediocre teams that are like, oh, well, they've got ball players, they just can't get them in the right position. Also, this is his first head coaching job at this level. And most folks don't have success in their first head coaching job. So, again, I'm not really expecting him to blow the barn doors off the Coastal and perch UVA at the top immediately, but we'll see.
I think it's also depending on who he brings in as his coordinators. We all know that if you get to a certain level of being the head, you aren't in the day-to-day as much as people think, right? You have a lot of other maneuvers and things that you have to check off your list, as well as the X's and O's and the day-to-day stuff. So I think it'll be interesting to see how he balances that. A lot of people say, oh, I can be the head and I can absolutely lead and do it how I would want to do it. But until you get into that position, I look at it a lot. Take the example from Hubert Davis, right? Until you're actually the head and having to figure out and having to make those tough calls and decisions, it's a different ball game. So I think it will be interesting to see how he pans out in Charlottesville. But I think the expectations aren't astronomical, right? Yes, they are high because Bronco Mendenhall certainly set the bar for a team that was, competing for the Coastal the past 5 years in his trying to figure out who was going to be the best of the best out of that division. But now he's the type of guy where you're trying to pick up where they left off in terms of being in the hunt, because they absolutely were in the hunt last season with Brendan Armstrong and company. So we'll see how he kind of transpires there. I'm always rooting for, and I know we get a lot of feedback about this, rooting for the black coach, period. I'm always rooting for the black coach in the Power Five. So I'm high on him. And I think that, at the end of the day, as much as I hate UVA, I want to see him do well, because I think it's just a great opportunity to say that we have another black man trying to take the lead and have an opportunity to do so in such a powerful conference as the ACC.
Again, you already know how I feel about that. There, more power to him. Again, I hope he's success. I hope success on all these coaches that come through, because at the end of the day, more good teams in the conference lifts us all up, gives more primetime games, has us have the ability that the SEC has a little bit, where it's like we are the bar that we get to measure against ourselves, and it doesn't really matter what we do against outside teams because we're the bar against each other. I would love to have that ability, but again, I go back to lean away, as I often do, because listen, good is good, bad is bad, period. Regardless of race, color, creed, religion, where you're from, how long you've been an assistant, whether or not you're in the NFL, whether or not you were from the high school ranks, whoever you are, whatever you look like, whatever music you listen to, whatever you do, at the end of the day, can you show improve? Point blank, period. Because I'm gonna get in all your tails equally, or I'm gonna praise all of you equally.
I just don't feel like that's realistic, but that's okay. That's just not realistic.
And again, we have talked ad nauseum about this. There is for me to say that there is not extra barriers for African American coaches, African American quarterbacks, African American any black person who is in certain positions, athletic director, all that stuff, conference commissioner, anybody who says that there is not more bias against them, or anybody who says that they do not have extra hurdles. I pose it to people very simply. If Baker Mayfield or Daniel Jones had Lamar Jackson's career and Lamar Jackson had either one of their careers, people would be calling for him to be out the league already. That's just the reality. But with that being said, I can't go to the same space that others do, and that I'm rooting for people who look like me just because they look like me, only because for us, it will never work out. It's a reason that we are the minority. That is the existent circumstance. So if we do favoritism by what we look like, if other folks did that,
it's not favored, but I'm not favoring. I'm saying I'm rooting for because of that. There's a difference. There's an absolute difference. That's not favoritism. I'm not saying I like someone better than anybody else, and I don't think that I'm rooting for him because of that. I'm having an extra extended grace because of that. So I think there's a difference.
I understand. And for me personally, he gets the same grace that everybody else does. And I don't think that you're wrong wanting to extend extra grace. That's your personal opinion. That's your personal take. You're not the AD. You don't get to make the call on whether or not Tony gets to keep his job in year 4. So
Well, the AD happens to be a lovely black woman. All right, bowl season is here. Locked on ACC fans. I've been telling you about PrizePicks, and if you still haven't signed up, what are you waiting for? In addition to the college football action, PrizePicks makes college basketball more exciting. PrizePicks is a leader in college sports daily fantasy. It offers props, any prop you can think of in basketball. You can play points, rebounds, assists, threes made, and more. All of your users that deposit and use your promo code to receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Just be sure to use promo code locked on. You can pick 2 to 5 players and an over under on their projection. You can win up to 10 times on any entry because it's just you versus the projected numbers. Don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com and use promo code locked on, or go to your app store and download the app today. Make sure you guys again go to prizepicks.com. We're talking about coaching hires here in the ACC, and of course, Virginia is great, but we also have to add Duke in the mix. They finally found a great coach in Mike Elko coming from Texas A&M. He will be heading the charge there in Durham, North Carolina. Blue Devils made a safe hire. I will sit here and go out and already, put it out there in the open. I think this is a great, if we're going to have to do something, let's make sure that we don't ruffle a whole lot of feathers higher.
I mean, it's Duke football. Like, I don't want to be that guy, but let's be honest with ourselves. What is to be expected of the head coach? To me, Duke is one of the hardest jobs in America to fill.
Why?
It is. If you really think about this now, you're going into a situation where you will not be able to recruit most of the top players in the country off top. Not because of your ability to recruit. You could be the greatest recruiter there ever was. You could be the world's greatest recruiter. You could sell salt to a slug or raid to a bug, and you could sell Duke to the best quarterback in the nation. Guess what? If that best quarterback doesn't have the grades that will qualify for almost everywhere else in the ACC, if you don't qualify for Duke, guess what, buddy? We've got nothing for you.
People make a will and a way for certain. Like, I do think there's a bar and a level of academic excellence that you must achieve at a Duke University. Same way for like a Wake Forest, right? But same at a Virginia and a Carolina. I think we all have an academic element to the ACC. We can say that, right?
A lot of these schools have a lot of academic rigor. They don't have Duke's academic rigor. It is flatly different. It is what is required to get into Duke, even for athletes. I'm not sure. Let me not say I know for a fact these are the grades that players must have, and yada, 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 so on and so forth. But what I know is generally all of the universities with the highest amount of academic rigor, for the most part, are not very good. Michigan has been an exception to that rule for like forever and a day, and it's just them and a few other schools, a handful of other schools. It's a reason. It is a reason, especially in a sport like football. In basketball, it makes sense, especially in today's basketball, where you can bring somebody in and, oh, yeah, you'll be going in 5 months. It don't matter. Pop Bonchero is not going to be back in 3 years. He's not going to be, where's your degree progress? That man is going to be on somebody's team in the league. He's going to be in somebody's dunk contest. He's going to be doing all that good stuff. Football players, regardless of how good you are, you're not going to the league after a year or two. You have to do Duke education for 3 whole years. So I think that at the end of the day, that makes it hard. But on top of that, you don't really have as much, there isn't really anything by way of history there to where people are like super excited about Duke football, to where, everybody gets up and gets geeked for Duke football. Oh, the city of Durham is behind Duke football.
You're giving strong hater vibes. I'm not even gonna hold you. You're giving strong hater vibes. There are a lot of people in Durham that support Duke football. One. Number two, I'm not done. Number two, I feel like the loyal people there are actually. I know. Did you watch this season? They didn't win one conference game, and they still had fans. They still have butts in the seat.
Again, I am not saying that this is. If you want to sell a kid on playing in front of 30,000 people every game, can you do that at Duke? With a straight face.
Not right now. But when they were playing the Texas A&Ms of the world, there were people in those stands. When they had the opportunities to beat the Carolinas and they were actually doing that, there were plenty of butts in the seats.
I just think that this is a really, really hard job to fill. Look historically at their record.
Sure. But a
This
degree
is
from Duke is a degree from Duke. You're set for life. And while I do think
absolutely.
everyone thinks you're all going to the NFL, I would hate to tell you it ain't happening. But also, you're set for life in terms of the type of circles that you're going to be a part of for life. Like your buddy who's in chemistry 103 with you is absolutely going to probably, cure cancer and be able to pop you off a couple million if he wants to.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me ask you this.
Hmm.
That has been the word out on Duke for how long? People have known that, what you just said about their academic excellence and the success of their alumni for how long?
For a good minute.
Okay. Why hasn't that worked on 18-year-olds already?
Well, it's different now. I think now that you have NIL deals in place, now that people are more business savvy than they used to be, now that they have the whole influencer brand, social marketing, Duke could be really appealing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's look at the other part that makes this a hard job. Where would Duke get most of their players from? Where would you imagine? What region?
Absolutely here in the triangle.
Okay. You get your best players from Southeast, right? Southeast?
Sure.
Okay.
And
Who are the big
probably up north.
Okay, you get, let's say, the whole Eastern Seaboard, shall we?
Wonderful.
Okay, so Northern Eastern Seaboard, if you're just competing by region, of course, you're looking at the Ohio States of the world. You're looking at the Michigans of
Everybody
the
can't
world.
go there. That's my point. It's like, yes, they're great. Every 5-star can't go to Ohio
You're
State.
right. They might not be able to go to Ohio State. You know where they could go? Penn State. You know where they could go? Oh, Penn State ain't got no spots for you either. Okay, you know where else they could go?
Okay, so here we go, right? So we have to be like a Wake Forest who went 8-0 for a good minute before they got beat by Carolina. You are going to be there for a good minute. You're going to have to develop players. Can Mike Elko do that? That's going to be the question. Can he develop players?
And that's the thing. Throughout his tenure as a defensive coordinator, I think he's been pretty good. I don't think that he has been at any point in time just like, oh, nah. If he's on the circuit available, you got to go get him. And again, I say this with the caveat of, I've been wrong before. I wouldn't be super upset and like, regardless of what happens, I'm right. Mike Elko is terrible. Duke football is terrible. Listen, I am for Duke football being good. I am for literally every team in the ACC being good except one, and y'all all know what that is, but that's another story for another time. I am for every single team in the ACC being good. If Mike Elko comes in and Duke comes in and becomes a powerhouse in 3 years that just has the greatest teams, most disciplined teams, most sharp teams, most athletic teams we've ever seen from Duke, I'm not going to be upset. I just, seeing this move, I'm like, okay, so you replace Coach Cutcliffe with
a safe pick. That's just what it is. Just what I said in the beginning. It's a safe grid pick. Like at the end of the day,
I'm not disagreeing with you. A guy that doesn't move the needle.
Sure. I personally have an affinity to Duke athletics because I think they're very nice and respectful. Now, mind you, it could be because their team stinks and they don't care. They're like, please come support us, whatever. But I do think that program is thirsting for higher, achievement in terms of the football program. Because when I say I went to a game, it was a Louisville night where every single program got honored because they were winning the ACC. They had academic excellence. It was the football. I mean, not the football, the lacrosse. It was baseball. It was softball. It was tennis. Everybody and their mama, golf, men's and women's. Everybody and their mama, fencing. Everybody and their mama. ACC champions are better. Your best program cannot be your most expensive, your one that causes the most strife probably when it comes to academic budget every year, can't be the worst one on the page by a mile. I think that's the biggest thing that Mike Elko is going to have to change being there in Durham.
I agree, but the sports that you just named are predominantly sports that are of affluence. And sports of affluence also, with affluence, you can also directly trace academic success. That is another thing that is just, it's a factual statement about life here in America. Academic success, particularly test scores, have a direct correlation for the most part to your parents' socioeconomic status.
But what does that have to do with athletic achievement? Because they're all ACC champions.
But that's my point. The players who play at Duke academically are going to be what? You would assume that they're some of the best in the conference, right?
Sure.
if you would assume that they're going to be some of the best in the conference and that they were able to get into Duke, you would also assume what? That they have had academic success coming in,
So you
correct?
have to, you can't be both smart and physically extremely gifted in
No,
play
you can
football,
be both. You can be both. You
but you're probably not
absolutely.
going to Duke.
But I'm saying for players like that, I'm okay. When's the last time Duke landed a 5-star in football?
I
When's the
already
last time?
said though that you have to build them up. You're going to have to take some time. This is not a come in, you're hot off the presses. But hell, Carolina has 5 stars. They ain't done nothing with them. So what's the point? Like, I think stars, people overrate stars and make that a thing. When at the end of the day, Sam Hartman wasn't a 5-star, but beyond ACC championship, he had a decent season.
Listen,
Kenny
I'm
Pickett
not.
wasn't a 5-star, was he? And I'm pretty sure he was sitting in New York this past weekend.
I'm not one of those guys who's all about, oh, the amount of 5 stars that you have is all that matters. However, again, if we're talking on correlations and trends, there tends to be a direct correlation between teams who have top 10 recruiting classes again and again and again tend to be the same ones that are in the playoffs every year, tend to be the same ones that are in their conference championships every year, tend to be the same ones who, even on a down year, are on New Year 6 games. I'm not saying that he can't have a one shining moment year. This was a one shining moment year for Wake
But
Forest.
do we
We can all
want
agree to
Duke
that.
to have college football playoff implications? Like, what is the bar for Duke right now? I
And
think they just
that
want to
is,
win an
and that's
ACC
the,
game.
but that's why I say that that's a really hard place. That's a really hard job to fill
How is
because
that hard? All
hear
I
me
want you to
out.
do is one ACC game. That's all I want you
Because
to do.
hear me out, right? We've seen how this college coaching carousel goes. We saw it this last time. Money is flying. I don't know. Everybody said that everybody was broke during the pandemic. The booster said, y'all broke. We up. I don't know what y'all got going on. We up. We could pay a buyout. We could buy out your mama, your sister, your daddy, your uncle, and them, and pay this coach $110 million. That's what the boosters are saying right now. So, with that in mind, my point is this: college coaches are now seeing money that has never been out, introduced to multiple coaches. And to think that somebody's going to want to stay at Duke, where the ceiling is one shining moment over some of the other powers in the conference where they know that's kind of like, I think most people could get a one shining moment out of this university.
So the
That's
point of the Duke job is like, you want the Duke job to be somewhere a landing spot. You don't want the Duke job to be a launching pad, and you feel like it's
well,
just a launching pad job.
I'm fine with Duke being whatever they are, but what I'm saying is uh uh a final destination job. If Duke is a landing spot job, that's fine. We can go with that. Because honestly, any job can turn into a leaping point job, a jump off point. Any job can turn into that. What I'm saying is Duke is hard to hire right now because Coach Cut made it a landing spot. And when he did all that he could, and he did better than we'd ever seen for the most part for Duke. And yet, and still, I don't think that there were a ton of folks coming and banging down Coach Cutcliffe's door like, "Hey, you need to come over here. We'll give you more money. You need to come over here." I'm sure that there were offers. I'm saying that there weren't to the level of where if Scott Satterfield wins 10 games the next 2 seasons, you don't think that somebody else in the SEC, ACC, whatever is going, hey, listen, we got money bags for you, baby. We're going to back up the Brinks truck. Come on with me.
I don't know why. All right, guys, let's take a minute and talk about kicking things up a notch for the big game, the grand stage, the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 56 at SoFi Stadium is less than 100 days away, and On Location, the official hospitality partner of the NFL, is the only place to score a once-in-a-lifetime Super Bowl ticket and experience package to the big game. Select your exact seats and choose from elite experiences featuring exclusive pregame celebration with college stars turned NFL legends, plus accommodations at 5-star LA hotels and food by the great Wolfgang Puck. Visit onlocationexp.com/SB56 for more information, or search Super Bowl on location. And that's onlocationexp.com/SB56 or search Super Bowl on location. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. Why not try Built Bar? So many flavors. Built Bar gives you that extra fuel. People are so passionate about their favorite flavors, whether it's cookies and cream, peanut butter brownie, or even double chocolate. You have to get in on the action. Tell Santa to throw a few Built Bars in your stockings or provide a little stocking stuffer for you and your family. You like some of those marshmallowy treats around the holidays? Well, you need to get your hands on Built Bar Puffs. They're light, fluffy, and marshmallowy through and through. Different flavors, all covered in chocolate. Taste so good, you won't believe that they're filled with protein. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, that's LOCK15 at built.com. Wrapping up today's show here with Kenton Gibbs, and we are going through all things coaching hires. But more importantly, we have to get to these hoops action because the Georgia Tech women took down UConn over the end of the week, and I was excited for the Yellow Jackets. I think anytime you get to see Coach Nell, defeat the UConn Huskies, I hated that it was more about the UConn women losing than it was about how good Georgia Tech was doing. That made me a little irritated because my Yellow Jackets held it down.
Let me tell you something. This to me was massive for women's basketball. Everybody claimed, or a lot of people rather, claimed that they don't watch women's basketball or that they didn't because UConn was just going to win every game and UConn was just going to be better than everybody else. For the first time since 2012 now, UConn lost to an unranked team. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I rest my case.
240 matchups, I believe.
Yeah, first time in 239. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, congratulations, Georgia Tech. They went out there and they did what they had to do. Laura LaCuba was absolutely amazing. She did not put up all the points in the world. And if you are a stat sheet watcher, then you won't understand her impact on that game.
Shout out to shooter though. Bates was throwing them threes back. Okay, sorry.
She was a force at the rim defensively, and rebounding wise. Every time it seemed like Georgia Tech needed a timely rebound, you would hear the announcers, Cuba with another one, Cuba with a big rebound, time and time again. And that is the dirty work that it takes to beat a team like UConn. You don't beat a team like that with just hoping that your star power is enough, especially if you're an unranked team this early in the season. So shout out to Georgia Tech. They did their thing. They won that game. And at the end of the day, there is more parity now in women's basketball than there's ever been. Because the number one team right now did not win the championship last year. So what's going on? NC State, the number 2 team, did not even make the final. Has never. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe they have. I may be wrong here. But under Westmore, they have never made a Final Four. I don't think they've even made an Elite 8. So
yeah. Well, it just remains to be seen that if you have not yet listened to Locked on Georgia Tech, you have the opportunity. Bryce Kuhn just started his show, and he is doing a phenomenal job. We are giving him all the hype, so I know he has a lot coming up this week, so make sure you guys listen to him wherever you listen to podcasts. We also talk about the fact that number 1 Purdue, it was so slight, but it was all NC State. They unfortunately were not able to take down the Boilermakers. NC State losing in overtime, and I would love to hear from Locked on Wolfpack host Kenton Gibbs. How did you feel about your pack after such a close yet no cigar matchup this past Sunday?
If this team does nothing, they will fight. If this team does nothing, they will fight. So let's start there. Number 2, the refs took this game away from NC State. They honestly and truly did. I understand the ideology of swallow your whistle and don't decide the game. That does not mean to not call things that are blatant. That's not how that works. Their big was out of bounds when he knocked Cam Hayes' inbound pass out of bounds. That is a technical, that is a violation that calls for a technical free throw. It didn't happen. That would have been a technical free throw with 2 seconds left to put us up 1 point. And we still would have had possession. And instead, it was called Purdue ball. Like, that's the difference. That's the things like that. And there were also multiple other calls, like Ivy deciding to run over one of our players and who was in position outside the restricted area, and yet it was a block somehow. I didn't understand that. There was a lot of moments like that, and Coach Keats even acknowledged it. Anybody who knows Coach Keats knows he's the last person on earth to blame the refs. And he said, "We played a great game and y'all took it away from us on the court. Got a tech for it." Shout out to Kevin Keats for it, because I love coaches who aren't afraid to say, "Listen, wrong is wrong, right is right. Y'all are wronging us right now." And NC State was wrong in this game. So at the end of the day, you still can't have a meltdown to where you lose an 8-point lead with under 3 minutes left to go. But the job is not to not have meltdowns. That's not your goal in any basketball game. The job of every team is to be 1 point better than your opponent. NC State was, but they were denied the opportunity to prove so.
Keep applying pressure, and we know that the Wolfpack will certainly be in more games. It's also just very nice to see NC State, Carolina, Duke, and Wake Forest, if you're part of the Triangle area, or North Carolina area even, especially extending to the Triad, have all four teams be good in the ACC. Florida State lost, this past weekend. Leonard Hamilton got a lot of questions to ask. We'll have JJ Jackson on tomorrow. We'll talk about more of that college basketball news. Kenton, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Can you please remind folks of where they can find you, follow your work?
Sure thing. You can find me at Locked On Wolfpack wherever you're listening to this right now, or you can find me at LO_Wolfpack on Twitter. As you can see, my personal handle is TGIF_Ken. Just be aware that you are getting the person and the man, not the sports broadcaster there.
Thanks again for listening to Locked On ACC, your first listen every day. Make sure to check out the Ultimate College Football Preview, local experts, betting advice, and draft analysis. The most comprehensive college football playoff preview begins this Friday. And if you have not yet had the opportunity to get in on the betting action, definitely hit up Locked On Bets with your boy Q and Lee Sterling. They are expert in analysts who can give you that lock of the day and give you some good dough. So love that. At Locked On ACC on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you guys come back tomorrow. Again, we're talking college hoops. We'll get you through the week on some recruiting news. We'll also talk about some upcoming games for the weekend, get you all set there. Until next time, for Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs.